In today's video, I talk about my own experience with psychedelics and what that taught me about suffering and how that can help you to see your past in a different way so that you can move forward in your life. Hey guys, so today I want to talk about something that I can only really call the void. And the void for me is basically it's a void of connection, a void of love. It's like a sort of vortex of pain and suffering. And so what I hadn't really realized, or I had to an extent, but I hadn't really realized it until now, the full extent of it, is that I've been trying to avoid this vortex of pain and suffering and lack of connection and lack of love. And nothing's really brought this to the forefront more for me than my current relationship, my current new relationship. And this is coming up, this void is coming up more and more. It's becoming more and more painful. It's becoming more and more violent in it's in the ways in which it comes up. And I've had a lot of emotional outbursts. I've cried a lot. I'm not typically a person that does cry a lot, and now I'm extremely emotional about a lot of things. And so with this void, it's like it creates things that don't exist in the present moment, right? So a lot of the things that it's creating, such as, I've even found actually that it's sort of creating an environment which it's odd. It just doesn't exist, right? But it exists inside of me. So even though everything in my outer world is telling me that everything is going right, and it's like 100% in my face that it's going right, there's an inner patterning in me that's, always waiting for the other shoe to drop, always waiting for something to happen, always waiting for something to go wrong, and terribly wrong, So it will make a really big deal out of very small things, which don't really mean anything. And so the pain that causes is absolutely tremendous. And I can also relate that to an experience that I had when I did psychedelics. I did mushrooms once. Some might call it a bad trip. For me, it was an experience that really enlightened me to my own suffering and what was going on for me. So the experience the thing that I experienced was I experienced what the process of remaining in the void is. And so a lot of that was, it was kind of scoped my sense of humor. This is not in any form of order or anything like that, but I found myself seeing or going back to my childhood and to my parents' house, and the terror of going back to that emotional void, that feeling of really not having anyone to turn to, and not having any connection, not having any love, not feeling emotionally supported, and the terror of going back there, because it was terrifying to me that this was happening, and it felt like I could do absolutely nothing about it. And so I was fighting it. And in the end, what happened is that I was sat there and I was just like, it was a really weird experience, because it was almost like I was a clown, and the clown was going through these happy moments, these laughing moments, these joking moments, and then slumping into despair and sadness and stuff, and was desperately trying to stop this, realized I couldn't, and then in the end I had to go into my friend's toilet. And so what happened is that I went in there and I curled up on the floor and I began sort of grunting and snorting and making all these animalistic sounds. And it was more or less a case of it was like there was like a sexual experience in there. And so in my past, and I'll tell you more about this in another video, but you know, I've had addictions to certain things, and also this has been a sort of pleasure hit. So it's been done to try and neutralize the pain that I'm feeling. So it's the direct opposite of, you know, the direct opposite of pain. So there's been a tendency to be addicted, right? And so that was part of this process, and that part of that process, and it was like, then there was the feeling of trying to hide this all the time. So trying to hide what I was doing, trying to hide what I was ashamed of. And the worst possible thing in the world for me was that this would come out in the world, and then I would be ultimately shamed, and nobody, in my own words, would ever love me anymore again, right? Or would respect me, or would think much of me, and I'd be banished to this horrible place where there was no redemption for me. And so, you know, that whole process where I was grunting, I was, you know, almost in a sense of weird, orgasming on the floor. And then I was starting to laugh, you know, and it was almost like I was being a clown. It's like everything was speeded up. It was so fast, but it was going round and round and round in a big circle. It was almost like a representation of every piece of suffering that was going on in my life, and the pattern that was causing the suffering. And so that hit me hard. And then another thing, which I've mentioned in the past as well, which is the semantic breathing. All of this stuff was there, but it was still buried. And so the last part was brought out by the semantic breathing. And so over the past couple of weeks to a month since that's happened, you know, I've been really, really emotional. I've had a lot of raw emotions coming up. And then it's just like one thing after another. And then this relationship shows up, right? Then this person shows up in my life. And then it gives me a massive opportunity to work on all this, to process all this stuff and be there for what's coming up within me. And, you know, the realization is that I'm just fucking scared. I'm really scared. And what I'm scared of is that I'll lose, again, like I said, I'll lose the connection, I'll lose the love. Something's suddenly going to pull the rug from underneath me, and I'm going to end up tumbling back into this dark void. And so I don't quite know what this means yet. I'm not sure how I'm going to resolve this in a sense, or whether it even needs resolving. You know, I mean, I know that what's powerful for me is allowing that pain to be there, allowing those emotions to be there. And then all the time that those emotions are there, there's all this pain of losing what I have. So ultimately, the most painful thing for me at the moment in the outside world that represents this is losing the relationship that I'm building, because I'm unable to transcend my problems. And then the other part of that is then, because what happens when I fall into the void is like I feel like I lose myself. You know, I lose my sense of who I am. I lose my sense of, it's almost like there's a real sense of losing absolutely everything, if you know what I mean. So there's a real sense of losing absolutely everything. And it's real. It's really real to me. It's painful and it's raw. And, you know, there's so many strings to this bow. There's so many things that, you know, I could go into, but, yeah. So, I mean, that's the void for me, guys. I mean, I don't think I can explain much more, but it's a very painful experience. And I know it's something that I have to go through. But it's also unpleasant to go through it. And it does get to a point where you're thinking, when the fuck is this going to end? You know, when is it going to end? When's it going to stop? And so, you know, I mean, I think to a degree as well that, you know, that sometimes we're working on different things in our lives, and this is one of my main core wounds that I'm working on right now. And I mean, I say working, but I'm processing right now. And, you know, I have the opportunity to come out the other side of this with flying colours. And I constantly get the opportunity to do that. And maybe it will get more and more painful as things go along. But as I build capacity to be able to process my emotions and feelings and stuff, I will eventually it will become normal for me to be able to process these sorts of pains. And so, yeah, so I think it's not easy, guys, to take this path. And one of the reasons that I've taken this path is because I don't want to suffer anymore to the degree that I've been suffering. I definitely don't want to feel like I'm permanently going to fall into a void. I mean, essentially what the void is it turns in, essentially the void will turn, there's a potential for suicide in that void, is what I'm trying to say. There's a potential for death in that void. And that is also terrifying to me, but it's not something that's pleasant for me at all. And, you know, I believe in myself that I kind of understand suffering very well, which is what gives me, and I'm starting to understand how to get out of that suffering, or how to release the suffering. And that's what essentially is giving me the capacity to help other people with their suffering. So I don't know if you experienced anything with this, guys. I don't know if this has made any sense to you at all. Have you ever had any experiences with what I call the void? What is the void in your life, and how is that affecting you? Just leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any thoughts on this at all, or you just want to share or whatever. Then let me know, and I will speak to you very soon, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. My name is Ross, and I help men in their 30s and 40s rediscover their direction and have the confidence to express themselves into the world, so they feel strong and capable to build the life they've always dreamed of. If you'd like to book a call with me, there's a link in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video.